Okay. Alright, okay, so JFalls97 asks, or whatever, you're a pretty big fan of the Elder Scrolls games, but you said you've only played Skyrim through twice. Why is that? Well, the answer is because Skyrim's main quest is not particularly fantastic at the end of the day. It's alright, it's not bad. It's perfectly passable, but it's not amazing. So after the first playthrough I did of it, I didn't for a long time feel inclined to do it again. In fact, this character right here, he's the second character I've ever managed to finish the main quest with. And that was only because I wanted to be able to go through Dragonborn with all the extra dialogue for having finished the main quest and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, quest-wise, I've not actually completed a lot of the quests in Skyrim. It's a bit bizarre and it's a bit silly, but I've put, according to Steam anyway, I've put over 500 hours into Skyrim since it came out, and I have been playing it on and off pretty much ever since it came out, but I've still yet to complete a single guild questline. I have not completed any of the guilds at all. Shocking, I know, but there it is. I got quite far with the Thieves Guild once, and I did a bit of the Companions. I haven't even joined the College of Winterhold yet, and I haven't even begun to join the Dark Brotherhood. So, yeah, there's still a lot of stuff in Skyrim I haven't actually done, and the reason for that is when I play Skyrim, I procrastinate like a crazy person. I never get anything done in Skyrim. The main reason being I never fast travel, and I very rarely use horses as well. So it takes me forever to get from place to place, which obviously means it takes me forever to get any quests done, and because I play it in a roleplay sort of way when I play Skyrim, that slows it down even more. I mean, if you've watched my Oblivion videos, then I think you should be able to understand that I play Elder Scrolls games at a very slow pace, and Oblivion, comparatively speaking, that's far, far speedier than my average playthrough by myself when I'm not recording would be. You know, so that's the main reason why I've not actually done the main quest more than twice. Is because when I play Skyrim, I get far more enjoyment out of just wandering around and doing my own thing and exploring than doing quest lines at the end of the day. Skyrim's, I think the main thing I love about Skyrim is just plain out exploring the world, actually, at the end of the day, and I don't, while the quests are fun, it's not the reason I play the game, so there you are, basically. Oh no, does this make me a filthy casual? I don't know. Does this make me qualified to even talk about Skyrim? I don't know, but there it is. People play games for different reasons, and that's the reason I play Skyrim, because I like exploring the world. Okay, so the Asnrir, no idea how to pronounce it, but anyway, asks, what has been your favourite quest to do ever in any Elder Scrolls series? In any Elder Scrolls game, I assume you mean. Also, what has been your favourite storyline in a game ever? Finally, what are your opinions on games like Dark Souls, Demon Souls? That's a whole bunch of questions right there, isn't it? Okay, so what's my favourite quest to ever do in any of the Elder Scrolls series? My favourite quest was the Pilgrimage of the Seven Graces in Morrowind. That, for a whole bunch of different reasons that maybe I'll explain at a later date, is one of the most superbly designed quests in any Elder Scrolls game ever, for a whole, like I said, a whole bunch of different reasons. So it's probably my favourite quest. Because essentially it's just a, like, you walk here from A to B, from B to C, from C to D, and that's all the quest essentially boils down to. But it's so much more than just the sum of its parts. That quest is a very, very, very cleverly designed one. So yeah, my favourite quest is that, the Pilgrimage of the Seven Graces. As for my favourite storyline in a game ever, okay, so this is a bit of a funny one because, okay, I could put on my little game design student hat and say, like, definitely the best storyline in a game ever is probably Planescape Torment, because that game was essentially a masterpiece in storytelling in games, as far as I'm concerned. However, I could then take off my game design student hat and put on my nostalgic gamer hat and say that my favourite storyline was possibly either Free Space 2 Colossus or Ace Combat 5. Ace Combat 5 especially, it's a completely and utterly ridiculous story full of utterly absurd events and some really kind of bizarre larger-than-life characters. And it's mainly because it's Japanese, that's why it's so ridiculous, but my god, I love that game so much. And the reason why I kept playing it was because I was really into the story in that game, you know. So, I mean, I played Ace Combat 0 as well after I finished playing Ace Combat 5, and that game had a comparatively crap story, and it turned out that simply the fun jet combat wasn't enough to keep me playing. I had to have a cool story with some, you know, likable characters flying around with me as well. So, yeah, okay, so basically I think from a mature perspective, Planescape Torment is probably the best game in terms of story I've ever played. But if I want to go put on the old nostalgia goggles, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, I'd probably say some trashy stuff like Ace Combat 5 or something, because, you know, sometimes, like a bad movie, we sometimes like cheesy games as well, and that game is full of cheese, but I love it for it, so, there you go. Okay, so, okay, so Cage Prod asks, do you have a favourite character that you made in any Elder Scrolls game? Difficult to answer because I've made so many characters in Elder Scrolls games, so very many characters, and I've kind of forgotten most of them. So the most memorable ones I've had though, I had this. Okay, a lot of them are actually from Skyrim. Come to think of it, actually, Skyrim, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best Elder Scrolls game they've done so far in terms of role playing, or your ability to role play. And this character I'm playing right now, this fellow, he's called Narbo. That's a funny little name, but it's a Roman name, so, and he's an Imperial, so it kind of fitted. He's been a pretty fun character to play so far, but some of my favourites are probably the first character I played in Skyrim, which was this fellow whose name I've completely forgotten, but he was a Dark Elf. But he was a very old Dark Elf. He had grey hair and a big, long, scraggly mountain goat beard. And he was a warrior. And the basic backstory for that fellow was he actually used to be one of the buoyant armigers back in the Third Era that guarded, you know, the entrance, Ghostgate, you know, the entrance to Red Mountain. That was his job. And, you know, when Morrowind sort of collapsed, he kind of drifted around for a while, and he became this wandering, kind of weird hermit warrior type guy, and eventually he finds himself arrested in Skyrim on his way to Helgen. And it turns out this unlikeliest of all people, this mad, slightly senile, old Dark Elf from Morrowind, who is kind of a bit of a hateful sort of person, because he hates the Empire, but he also hates the Nords. And he finds himself ending up becoming the Dragonborn of legend, this kind of a typically what was in the past a sort of Nord hero. It turns out to be this mad old Dark Elf, and he basically saves the world against his better judgment from from Alduin. And yeah, that was probably one of my most memorable characters I've had. That guy was pretty awesome. I still have the save game for him somewhere around here. He was pretty great. And I've got another cool character I had was, I think I mentioned him once before actually, if you watched my Oblivion Let's Play, but I had a character in Oblivion who was a Breton from Daggerfall, who was a professional poisoner. Like, he was a courtly assassin, if you like. Like, he wasn't an assassin in the Dark Brotherhood sense, where he goes around wearing skin-tight leather and carrying bows and arrows around all over the place, but basically his job was to, you know, he worked for hire for different members of the Breton nobility, and he would go around and he would basically poison other nobles to, you know, in a very Game of Thrones-esque sort of a way. That was his old job. Like, he couldn't fight for shit. Like, he had a silver short sword, and he didn't wear any armor or anything. He just went around in clothes, and that's basically all he did. And basically, all that character ever did is he never actually did any quest lines. He didn't join the Dark Brotherhood or anything. All I did with that character was work my way across Cyrodiil, poisoning and assassinating every single count or countess in the entire province. That's what he did. I can't remember why he did it. I think he was a little bit mad to begin with, but I think he felt he'd been slighted or wronged, or he was fed up with nobility everywhere for some reason, and he decided he was going to go on a bit of a rampage and murder everyone, all the nobles in Cyrodiil, just because he wanted to, for whatever reason. Not a particularly well thought out character, but it's definitely one of my more memorable ones. So yeah, he was pretty awesome. Again, I can't remember. I think his name was Marcellus now, actually, now I think about it, and he was pretty great. He was. I had so much fun planning out my elaborate murder schemes for getting rid of and bumping off the various counts. I had to install a shit ton of mods with that, to do with poisoning and stuff, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. He was pretty great. And the last one is probably this. A Breton vampire. Who, her name, I can't remember what it was, unfortunately. And I'm probably going to do a reboot of that character at some point, because I'd love to play her again, but I've lost a save file for it. And basically what she was, I used the alternate start mod to make her, and basically she wakes up one day in a coffin in some cave somewhere in the middle of Skyrim with no memory whatsoever of anything prior to that. And it turns out she's a vampire. And that was her thing. She was this very petite little Breton lady who, it turned out, much to her surprise, was actually really, really good with a blade. And one of the most memorable bits of that playthrough I remember is her wandering into an orc stronghold and challenging the chieftain to a fight. This tiny little Breton girl challenges this huge, massive orc chieftain to a fight, and she actually won. And ended up becoming bloodkin and respected by all the orcs. And she actually lived pretty much. Her player home was this orc stronghold. That's where she lived. And I think it was Dushnik Jarl. It was the one where you could actually have an orc follower at one point. You could recruit an orc follower there. And basically, she had this orc sidekick guy who followed her around everywhere and was basically ended up being her sort of bodyguard. And that was a great playthrough. I had a lot of fun with that character. I think she was pretty awesome. And like I said, I'll probably do it again at some point, because I sadly lost the save file for that. And I was eventually going to do Dawnguard with that character. I think I had Dawnguard installed, and one of the reasons she kind of decided to seek out this orc fellow as a bodyguard was because the Dawnguard actual vampire hunters, I don't know whether it was part of the mod where it was just part of Dawnguard anyway, but she'd actually literally started to be hunted by Dawnguard NPCs that would occasionally spawn and try to kill her. So that's why she picks up this great big burly orc fellow whose purpose was essentially to guard her while she was like sleeping and stuff like that, and just bash the skulls in of all these hapless Dawnguard vampire hunters that would come to get her every now and again. So yeah, no, she was pretty awesome. So yeah, that's probably my 3 most memorable characters. It might surprise you to learn that I don't have any majorly memorable ones from Morrowind. Main reason for that's really just being because when I played Morrowind the most, it was a very, very long time ago, and I don't remember most of the characters I had from that game. But yeah. But also, Morrowind wasn't a particularly amazing game when it came to really in-depth role-playing in the same way Oblivion and Skyrim are. I think that's one of the strengths of the newer games. It's much better and easier to role-play in them, I feel. So yeah, there you go. Marcellus, the Breton poisoner. The little Breton vampire girl who was actually an amazing warrior, but she didn't look like it. And the other fella who's just completely slipped my mind because I'm a scatterbrained idiot. The old boy in Armiger, senile Dunmer fellow. Yeah, he was pretty awesome as well. So yeah, those are my 3 favourite characters I ever played in an Elder Scrolls game. So there you go. Right. Okay. So another question from Cage Prod. That was a really long answer, by the way. I waffled on for ages on that one, so apologies for that if you got bored. But, oh, and Idris, obviously. Idris is awesome. I should have mentioned that as well. Idris is pretty great. I love Idris. He's awesome. And, yeah, he's definitely one of my favourite characters. I played an Elder Scrolls game as well. Hooped up, obviously. I thought it kind of went without saying, but maybe I should mention it anyway, so yeah. Him too. So, yeah, okay, so next question from Cage Prod, again, is do you plan on playing or LPing the Elder Scrolls Online? Now, obviously I'm going to play the Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know if I'll LP it or not. It really depends on how the game plays and what it's actually like when you get into it as to whether or not I'll LP it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd love to do almost like maybe a co-op LP of the Elder Scrolls Online, where it was me and maybe just some other dude, both of us with our characters going around and playing it sort of cooperatively. That'd be quite a fun idea. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe not. Depends on how the game actually is when it comes out. Next question is from the Japanese Tortoise. In your streams, depending on the number of people we can get in a Skype chat, so we can turn the number of people can we get in a Skype chat so we can talk instead of just typing. The answer is no, for a few reasons. First being, I feel more comfortable just streaming by myself, if I'm honest. I'm a bit antisocial like that. You know, there's got to be some semblance of order. I can't have like 20 people all in Skype with me at the same time while I'm trying to stream. It'd just be utterly ridiculous. I don't think it would happen. And also, it's literally impossible because my poor little internet connection would not be able to host a Skype call with 15 people and stream at the same time. It just wouldn't work. My connection has enough trouble as it is trying to stream at very low quality. So yeah, no, that would never happen, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Okay, next question is from Tristan Lott. How hardcore do you roleplay when you do? And the answer is totally hardcore. No, actually, not really. Maybe I'd say, I don't know, it might surprise you a bit, but you know, when I'm let's playing, like with Idris in Oblivion, you know, yeah, that's pretty hardcore role-playing. But when I'm actually playing by myself, I tend to, in the role-playing department, I probably role-play way more than the average Skyrim player does, but I still cut corners quite a bit when in comparison to, say, the Oblivion Let's Play. This guy here, for instance, Narbo, I've kind of, he's not a particularly complex character anyway. It's one of the reasons I like him. Like, most of the characters I play in Elder Scrolls games are in some way actually quite weird or quirky or strange, and Narbo here is, he's actually kind of bland and generic. He's just this generic Imperial sword and shield fighter who is the Dragonborn, and he's kind of, well, you know, he's quite close to what I imagine the canon Dragonborn actually being, really, at the end of the day. So, you know, and with him, my role-playing hasn't been really as heavy as perhaps it has been in the past, but I've enjoyed it nonetheless, you know. So, Dawnguard's been pretty interesting with this fella, because Dawnguard, from a role-playing perspective, is actually a really interesting quest line. Main reason being, Serana, wherever the hell she is, oh yeah, she's frozen over in the corner, isn't she? Yeah, hello there. She's interesting because of some of the dialogue she actually gives you. And it's something I might talk about a little bit later on with some of the later questions, but that'll be another video anyway, so I might as well do it a bit now as well. There's a couple of points, at least so far, I've not obviously finished this yet, but there's a couple of points where she actually asks your character questions about his or her past, and that's something that almost never happens in Elder Scrolls games. I don't know why, because it's a really, really good idea. Like, people when they play Elder Scrolls games, they generally tend to make these kind of elaborate, well thought out characters that they play through. And yet, when it comes to dialogue and stuff in the game, the developers never really give you a chance to roleplay very much. But with her, it's been different. Like, I think earlier, not far from where I am now, she actually asked me a question about my character's parents and what they were like. And it gave me a surprisingly large number of different responses I could give. And I thought that was really awesome, because it actually forces you as the player to think in character, for once. And that was actually brilliant. That was really, really, really clever, and I don't know why the hell Bethesda don't do it more often. The only other example of that happening in another Elder Scrolls game I can think of is at the very end of the Morrowind main quest, where after you ask Dagothr a bunch of questions when you stood outside the Heart Chamber with him, in that initial parley before the big boss battle begins, after you've asked the questions you want to ask him, he then turns around and says, I'd like to ask you some questions. And he asks you a bunch of very interesting questions, which have a bunch of different answers depending, and you can choose them depending on what sort of character you're playing. And that was the only point in the game they ever did that. And until this fine lady came along, it's the only point in the Elder Scrolls full stop, as far as I remember, they've ever done that. And yeah, it's always perplexed me why Bethesda have never done that, because it plays to one of the very biggest strengths of their games, is allowing players to create their own characters with very detailed, potentially, backstories and so on and so forth. And, you know, yeah, so from that perspective, actually, this character's had some pretty interesting roleplay moments, but yeah, on the whole, I've not roleplayed him nearly as much as I would have, or have been with Idris, or I would if I was doing a Skyrim Let's Play, you know. So I think when you're Let's Playing, there's more pressure for you to keep the roleplay up as much as you can, because people will call you out on doing something that's out of character in the comments, so you're constantly aware of what you're doing and trying to make sure that you don't slip up, you know. So, and when you don't have an audience watching, when you're just playing the game by yourself, there's no pressure. So, you know, if I want to act out of character very briefly or something, just because I can't be bothered, you know, there's no one telling me that I shouldn't be doing that. And, you know, so there you go. Might surprise some people, but yeah, no, when I'm playing by myself, I generally don't roleplay as heavily as I do when I'm recording my Let's Plays and just doing my streams and things. So yeah, there you go. And I think I'm probably going to wrap it up here right now. This is probably more than one video's worth of stuff already, but it's all I can be bothered to answer today, and there's a whole bunch more questions. We're not even halfway yet, so there's a whole bunch more questions to go. And yeah, for now, that's it. And soon I think I'll get around to recording another Q&A video, maybe later today or tomorrow, and then I'll upload it once I'm done with it. And hopefully we'll be out of the bloody Soul Cairn by then, because it's not the most amazing location ever. And yeah, so until then, I'll see you guys all later. Hopefully this will be uploaded at a reasonable time, because I've been having a lot of trouble with YouTube and my videos recently. They've been constantly getting stuck at the processing screen, and for some reason they won't move beyond it, and it's getting a little bit annoying, and I don't know why it is. But anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you all again soon, and you all have a nice day. Okay? Ta-ra for now.